Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. So, listen, just wanted to give a quick talk about Black Americans or African Americans or whatever term you want to use today moving to Africa. So, here's the thing: Africa is not some kind of utopia. Many times, most people in the West or Jamaica or the Caribbean or the UK or other countries, we have this view of Africa that it is not only the motherland, which it is, right? So that's where most people of any kind of African origin or Black origin comes from at the root. And the mixing over the years, you don't get light skin because, you know, you weren't mixed and blended with someone else. But most people primarily focus on just the African side. But here's the thing: when you decide that moving back to the African continent is better for you or for your family because of the culture, because of how kids are raised, because of the way that the kids' manners can be developed and honed better than Western society, which honestly is better, right? I don't care what anybody says. From my own experience of seeing the difference with kids in an African country versus the United States, it's completely different, right? How they're raised is completely different. Their mannerisms, how they communicate, how they talk, how they interact socially is completely different from how things are in the US and Western countries. But here's the thing: with some things being better, you have to understand that there's going to be challenges, right? If you expect everything to be some kind of utopia, it's just not reality, right? And no one should pack up this stuff and move to Africa in any country, whether it's Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Uganda, Gambia, Senegal, whatever country, Ethiopia, wherever country you decide to go. You shouldn't do that if you haven't gone for at least 2 to 3 trips. And I'm not talking about for no 2, 3 weeks. I'm talking about some months so that you can understand the nuances of the culture of how things work. And it's not all about, dealing with some people that may beg or some people that will try to scam you and upsell you and all the other negatives that come with any location on earth where you're not local to that location. And it's not unique to just Africa. I mean, anywhere if you go and you're from someplace else, they hear an accent, they're going to try to rip you a little bit. And if you don't have common sense, you don't take the time to negotiate and learn, then, expect to be frustrated. So here's the thing: if you decide that it's a path for you, right? Now, buying homes in Africa, depending on your lifestyle, is way cheaper than the West, right? You can buy a home in Kenya, depending on the city, depending on the county, depending on the location, right? And be able to build the property for 50, 60, $70,000. I mean, you could build a huge home in certain areas for $70,000, and it's amazing. You would never be able to afford that kind of property or build that kind of property in the United States, right? It's not even a joke, right? And coming from Maryland, and especially Baltimore, I know exactly what it means to build and how expensive it is to build and renovate houses because I've been doing it for years, right? So you can do it way cheaper in Africa. You can, depending on your lifestyle, right? Don't take it for a joke. You move to the wrong area, buy land in a certain area, and they can rip your pockets too because they got $1 million homes there, which people don't seem to understand. But you have to plan accordingly, and do not think that you're going to go to anywhere in the continent and get a job, right? You need to have your own business and run your own business and become an entrepreneur. And if you do have a business that you start there, you need to make sure that you have support from someone local, someone that grew up there that speaks the language, not just the language, but the different dialects, right? Um, do not think you're just going to do things on your own, right? So if you do decide to launch a business there, you have to have somebody locally. If you have a spouse, that's even better, right? So my spouse is Kenyan. That allows me, and her family is Kenyan, so that allows me to navigate in ways that I wouldn't be able to navigate. It's just an American, Black American, right? It's just no way in the world that I would be able to navigate, right? So you can focus on launching a startup or a business with family help and grow it from there, or you can launch your business from where you are, get some kind of customer base, and then move there. But you need to have somebody coming up from somewhere, preferably from investments. So business fluctuates up and down, but if you have investments like real estate, which is probably the most stable, you got rental income or Airbnb, short-term rentals, things like that, or you're renting business spaces out, maybe office rental desk or private desk, or something that you have that, or retail store, something that you have that brings in monthly income then you can move there more comfortably as possible. But if you don't have that, you're going to have a hard time, seriously. Or if you have a drop shipping business or an online business, the thing is this: you need to have something. And even if it just got started, which is fine, you have to have a way to sustain yourself. You have to have a way to pay your bills, because you're going to have rent there, unless you're going to buy land to build the house. But even that takes time, right? And you need to have some kind of way to make sure that you can afford your preference of your own personal lifestyle, right? So if you have a high class lifestyle, you want to eat out all the time, expect your pockets to be empty, right? Because Africa is just as expensive as the U.S. and any other country when it comes down to eating out all the time, right? So it's better for you to buy food and cook at home. That's going to be way cheaper. If you just go to the local halal store, if you're not Muslim, you can go to the butcher, find a mama and boga or somebody, local that you can buy vegetables and fruits from and stuff like that, or go to the markets, or send someone to the market that can buy the food for you locally. Because if you're a foreigner and you open your mouth, you don't learn the local language. Even if you do, they're going to hear the accent. Your prices are going to be higher. And that's just reality. You can complain about it all day, but it's just reality, right? So I'm not going to go to the market. I'm going to send somebody to the market, but if I do go to the market to pick up stuff, then I just know, go with somebody that can help me negotiate if I want to keep my prices down. If you want to do it yourself, I mean, you can do it yourself and nothing's going to stop you. Just understand that your prices are going to be a little bit more, right? And that's just life, right? You can complain and moan and groan about it all day, but that's just life, and it is what it is. Same thing happens in the U.S. depending on where you go. If I'm from Baltimore and I go to Philly, I'm not going to get the same prices like everybody else. It's a little bit more tame if you go to a store, because you walk into a store, the price in the store is the price in the store. That's the main difference, because nobody's fluctuating the prices based upon where you're from. But if you go to New York and you try to buy something and you know nothing about the city, you're going to pay like somebody that's not from New York City. It's the same kind of thing, right? I don't know why people sit there wasting their time worried about that. I mean, it is what it is, right? So here's the thing. If you're going to get your visa, right, if the country requires a visa, Kenya supposedly just got rid of the visa, but to me, it's literally this very similar thing. And I walk through how to apply for that, the new pseudo visa that's been set up. But you need to make sure that you understand your timelines of how long you're going to be there, unless you're going to get some kind of permanent residency, which will require your spouse or somebody else, or a business that will allow you to actually stay in the country longer. You generally has the first 90 days. After the first 90 days, you need to extend. When you go to extend, you're going to have to, figure out what you're going to do after the first 6 months. If you need to leave the country for 24 hours and then fly back, then fine, fly to Dubai 5 hours, then come back into the country, or wherever way you want to do it, right? And if you intend on staying for a period of time, you need to look at the options that allow you to stay there long term. If you're going to go back and forth to the U.S., you have to really plan that, because flights are expensive. Qatar Airways, Kenya Airways, whatever flight that you want to use, you need to plan for those costs associated with that traveling back and forth. And if you want to work remotely, if you're an IT person, you have to be okay. You have to make sure that the company that you're going to work for is okay with you working remotely. And if they're not, you need to figure out a way to make sure that you can match your connection to be able to work remotely. But at some point, you're going to get asked to come into the office, depending on the company that you pick or the location that it is. So you need to think about that also. So it's not a utopia, but it is something that you can plan for if you use your brain, right? So for anybody of African American origin, understand that the culture in Africa is different. You can't go there all loud, rude, disrespectful, and you got some people that really are ghetto like you wouldn't believe. Nobody wants to deal with that, honestly, right? So have some sense of professionalism. I'm Muslim, so I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't, go to parties and stuff like that. I don't go to clubs and things like that. So if that is your lifestyle, just understand that whatever you bring from the West there, whatever may be acceptable in the West is not going to be acceptable there, or maybe an extreme there. So it's just, and I'm not even going to try to talk to those kind of lifestyles because I don't live them. But just understand that there's a time and place for everything, right? So if you're loud, rude, disrespectful, or treating women like garbage and stuff like that, I mean, you're going to get it over there just like you get it over here. You know what I mean? Nobody's playing with you. You know what I mean? So I would recommend to go with an open mind and an open mentality, and understand that things are different and it's not going to be the same. And don't think that you're going to go there teaching anybody something. And I see that a lot. People think that they're going to go there and I'm going to teach them how to do this, and they don't know this. And one of the things I see so much with business there is that the only thing that's lacking many times is the hands-on skill. Doesn't mean that somebody's not smart. The education there is crazy and better in a lot of different ways than Western countries, but the hands-on skill, the hands-on competency is what may be lacking or missing. But if you teach that skill, they'll adapt very fast, right? And can teach you some things. So just be open and kind of calm down and just realize that people are people. And if you're going to launch a company and run a business, just understand that there's going to be some challenges associated with it, and you're going to need to learn and expect some mistakes, right? So with that being said, don't fear anything. Just go. Go see for yourself, try for yourself. It's always going to be better to interact with somebody locally and learn local culture and customs. And that's going to be easier for you. Take the time. If you're going to Kenya, try to learn some Kiswahili, right? Some Swahili. Try to learn. I mean, if you never ate ugali before, which for Black Americans, we ain't never tasted no ugali. But when I got there and tasted ugali and had to learn how to eat it, and then, okay, all right, that's cool. Then Sukuma Wiki popped in, then kachumbari. Then, okay, namachoma, the meat is a little bit drier there. So it's just, you have to adapt and learn the local ways, right? Walking around, interact with people. Not everybody's trying to, rip you and scam you. Just use your head. Just have common sense. Don't be scared, but just use common sense, right? And just understand, if you eating out all the time, and I'm serious about this, if you eat out a lot, or you try to use like Glovo and Uber Eats and these apps where it's going to be expensive, just like here, right? Maybe a little bit cheaper, but it's still going to be expensive. You better learn how to cook, right? And if you can't cook, you better hire somebody that can cook for you, because, there's plenty of people that are looking for jobs, and you can hire somebody, but expect that you better treat them fair, right? Don't think you're going to hire somebody to be treat them like trash. Nobody's your servant or your slave, right? And even if they do serve you, that doesn't mean you treat somebody like they're garbage. You treat them like family and treat people with dignity and respect, and then you'll be fine, right? So that's it. There'll be more, and this is for the African Americans out there, or the African Caribbean or UK or whatever. Just understand that going to the continent is not going to be easy, and you need to use your head, and you'll be fine. All right. All right. For the Muslims, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. For everybody else, peace, love, take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon.